I know, that's what it sounded like when I played the.
Now is the expert, yeah, you should spotlight the expert.
I will, oh, I have to spotlight him? Where is he? Where's Mr. Tech? I don't see you.
It's the second camera there.
What's,
The second one on the upper left,
Yeah. Second on the
you just
left.
spotlight that,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah.
this one?
Oh.
No,
Oh, I see. What you need to do is view grid gallery. And you want, okay, it's up there is the second. This is the one. It says the stream
yeah,
check.
okay, yeah.
Spotlight that for everyone.
All right, here we go.
So that'll be whatever camera they choose.
All right, folks.
Can they hear us? Can they hear us? now?
You guys can all hear us? It sounds okay? Yes? Somebody, yes, great,
Yes.
thank you. All right, here we go.
Sounds good.
We're trying, okay, we're gonna start all over again.
We're gonna begin again.
Wait, let me say Shabbat Shalom because we're gonna, yeah, all right, Shabbat Shalom. Okay. This is Shabbat Shuvah, which means a Shabbat of return, which means we're returning to what we started doing before. So, and the song is a song about return by Alana Arian.
Amen. 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 We begin again. We begin in hope. We begin with believing. We begin with our hearts staying open to all of the gifts we're receiving. We begin in faith, amen. We begin with returning, amen. We begin with our minds broken open to lessons we'll never stop learning. We begin again, amen. 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 We begin again. We begin in strength. Amen. We begin seeking justice. Amen. We begin with our arms stretching open to welcome the weary among us. Begin again. Begin again. May the sweetness of this union never end. Begin again. Begin again. May we never take for granted where we've been. We begin again. Amen. 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 We begin again. We begin in truth. Amen. We begin with forgiveness. Amen. We begin with our eyes focused open to notice the sacred within us. Begin again, begin again. May the sweetness of this new year never end. Begin again, begin again. May we never take for granted where we've been. We begin again. Amen. 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 We begin again.
Would you like to light the candle? You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, page 120 and 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav. I just wanted to do a different key.
Was that a hint?
No, I thought you wanted us to do
Yeah, good, thanks.
it. Thank you.
All right.
Read the English.
Sorry, I wanted one.
This is a rehearsal.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not really doing
Like
this.
Did you want to do one?
You did it.
No, that's fine. That's what it is. We'll put it together for me.
This is the comedy version of Shabbat Shuvah, which is supposed to be very solemn.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're gonna move on to the Kiddush, which is page 123 and 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borech peri harachen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'ratzav Shabbat Shuva u'ratzon hinkinanu zikar lema'aseh b'neishi. Yom tekivah elai kol yesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim.
Anu
Mikol ha'avim v'shabbat shecha v'hava u'ratzon hinkinanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
Chaim. Thank you, Gina. I know the sound is not perfect for people on Zoom, but we can't really do any better given everything. So please bear with us. Thank you. This week's Torah portion is Vayelech, meaning he went. It opens with Moses explaining to the Israelites that he will not lead them into the promised land. He assures them that God will be with them. Moses then appoints Joshua as his successor, telling him to be strong and resolute. He instructs the Israelites to gather and to read the Torah every 7 years during the Feast of Sukkot. This time was chosen, according to the Eitz Chaim commentary, because this festival attracted the largest number of pilgrims and comes after the harvest was stored. Thus, the people would feel secure about their food supply for the coming year and could absorb the lessons of the reading with minds free of concern. Thus, the Torah was to be made available to all the people, not just to the priestly elite. In today's world, of course, we read a portion of the Torah each week, year-round, and technically on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings and afternoons. Lo yisag goy, unless something got changed.
No, let's go there.
Okay, Lo yisag goy, page 645 and 341.
Okay, this one's sung as a round. If you guys could sing the background part, which goes like this. You can do that. Little practice, okay? Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Lord, you said, go, yeah, go, Lord, you let to all you come. Lord, you said, go, yeah, go,
לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה.
Lozaga means nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor ever again shall return to war.
Rabbi James Jacobson Mazels explains that in this Torah portion, God foretells Israel's future sins and their consequences, how they will turn to other gods and then be overtaken by suffering, leading God to say, Anochi haster astir panai, I will surely hide my face. The hidden face of God, the classic theological expression of the presence of suffering and evil in the world, here seems to be a response by God to the sins of Israel, a punishment for their misdeeds. The Hasidic master, Rebbe Ephraim of Sudlikau, understands this passage differently. Carefully rereading the Hebrew, Rabbi Ephraim separates the phrase into two sections and reinterprets the implications of God's actions. When Anochi Haster, the I-ness of God, is hidden through our entering the slumber of self-deception and idolatry, then Astir Panai, God's face, will be hidden. When we forget our values and our humanity, we obscure God's holiness from the world. Then God's face, God's true presence, is hidden from us. When we pervert what is just and right through the pursuit of that which is not the true center, we cause God's presence to disappear, not as punishment, but as a consequence. The Torah explains that this turning away will occur when the people of Israel eat their fill and grow fat and turn to other gods. It is through complacency and an absorption in wealth that Israel will lose sight of the locus of divinity and the genuine values that flow from it. The Hatzi Kaddish is page 263 and 145. We rise to the Baruch Hu on the next page. This is a poem or prayer by Trisha Arlen. It's called If I Let It. It grows dark. I light 2 candles and drink a sip of wine. And the world changes for one day if I let it. There will be music and friendship and food if I allow it. There will be Torah and wisdom and godness if I permit it. There will be quiet and napping and deep rest if I open up to it. There will be study and expansion and new ideas if I consent to it. There will be prayer and blessings and meditation if I give into it. There will be hope and renewal and clarity if I walk toward it. If I let it, if I allow it, if I permit it, if I open up to it, if I consent to it, if I give into it, if I walk toward it. The world changes for one day. Shabbat happens if I let it. Ahavat Olam is page 266 and 148. Please rise for the Shema on the next page.
I will tell you that God loves me. I will tell you that God saved my life. But I can say as loud and clear as I can sing from my lips to your ears that there's one of our God in every one of our lives, and that's why we sing Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And that's why we say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I won't tell you that God controls my life. I won't tell you that to have God's love will be my everlasting light. But I can say this loud and clear, 'cause I can sing from my lips to your ears that there's one of our God, our near tamid, our everlasting light. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And that's why we sing Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And that's why we sing Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated, and we continue with the Ve'ahavta, page 268 and 150, and Carol Lee will lead us in that prayer.
Please join me, and I would love to hear all of you, please. Ve'ahavta, hey, Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher Anoki b'tzavcha hayom b'alevavecha V'shinantam l'banecha v'dibartam v'shivtecha v'meitecha u'v'techa v'derech u'shofecha u'kumecha u'shartam le'od amidecha v'hayu le'totafo b'neinecha u'chatatam This is open tefa ubishareh. Laman tiskaru. V'asiteh. V'tem kedoshim le'lohei. Ani Adonai Elohim. Asher hoseti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. V'yot lahem ani Adonai Elohim.
So these days of awe that we're in are about trying to get to our better selves, renew inside the best of who we are. And it's also about forgiveness, either asking for forgiveness or offering it. So this is Trisha Arlen. Forgive you, question mark. Forgive you, you say to me. If I've hurt you in any way this past year, I apologize and hope that you can pardon me, forgive me. Let me atone for my sins against you. If you have hurt me, of course you have hurt me. Remember that time in the car, in the living room, on the road, in the backyard, on the stoop? In that email, on the phone, to my parents, with my friends, next to my spouse, in front of my kids when we were alone? Overtly, covertly, passive-aggressively, inadvertently, officially, slowly, abruptly, shockingly, repeatedly, mistakenly, knowingly. Oh my God, yes, you have hurt me. I know, you say, I know. Pardon me. Forgive me. Let me atone for my sins against you. Forgive you? When should I forgive you? Immediately? Before you even know what you did? Now? As soon as you ask for forgiveness? Eventually, but only after making you feel bad for years? What about never? How does never work for you? Forgive you? How should I forgive you? Miraculously, without you having to ask? Simply by just saying, apology accepted? Grudgingly, and only after you groveled for a really long time? Or what about not at all? Forgive you? Why should I forgive you? Because you are really, truly sorry and you will never do it again? Because it cleanses us both and helps me move on? Because it's Elul and the rabbi says I have to? Because nothing, screw this, you're evil and I hate you. Yes, you say, you're right, all true. Pardon me, forgive me, let me atone for my sins against you. Forgive you? I imagine saying no. Forgive you? I imagine saying maybe. Forgive you? I imagine saying yes. Amen. And I'm sure we've all had a range of people that we are happy to forgive, others we're not so happy to forgive. The key is not to let it take space in your head. The Milchamocha, page 270 and 152.
I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the. Mi kamocha, Elohim Adonai. Mi kamocha, Nehedor b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Oseh pelet, Nora tehilot, Oseh pelet. I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the. Mi kamocha, Elohim Adonai. Mi kamocha, Nehedor b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Oseh pelet, Nora tehilot, Oseh pelet. waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the velvet sea. Whoa, I've been waiting in the, I've been waiting in the sea.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the meaning of our Torah portion by Yelech is he went, meaning Moses went, to call the people of Israel together and to speak to them. The commentators are perplexed by this. In the previous Torah portion, the people were nitzavim, standing before God. So why does Moses need to go to them? You might guess that there are a number of interpretations. Nachmanides suggests that after Moses spoke to them in the previous portion, people returned to their tents, and now Moses needs to go visit each one of them to say goodbye. He'll be dying soon. For the medieval commentator Ibn Ezra, Moses went to each tribe individually to comfort them and tell them not to fear. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch believes that by personally visiting the people rather than having them come to him, Moses demonstrates his extreme humility. For the Hasidic commentators, Vayelech, he went, means that Moses entered into the soul of everyone. This is why we don't know where Moses is buried, because he is buried deep in the recesses of each and every Jew. The Shamru is page 272 and 154.
Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם בגדולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בגדולם בני ראובן בני ישראל עוד לעולם ששת ימים עשה אדוני עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
The tefillah begins on page 273 and 155, and we rise.
Adonai sefatai, sefatai tifta, rufi yadi, tegilatecha. Adonai sefatai, sefatai tifta, rufi yadi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול המדבור והנורא, אל עליון גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. זוכנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר חיים למען האלוהים החיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, ותגיד הכל אתה ומושיע, מוריד הטל, מטלטל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סובב נופלים ועושה חולים, ומצהיר הסופרים, ומקיים אמונתו משלמה. מי כמוך בעל גדולו, ומידות מלך, מלך לית ומחייך ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך ברחמים זוכר ישועה לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות חיות, ברוך אתה אדוני חיי הכל. אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
Please continue silently to page 282, and then be seated whenever you need to or when you're done. Shalom Rod is page 282 and 164.
Shalom Rab, Yisrael, Tasim, Shalom Rab, Yisrael, Tasim, Ki ata lechol hashalom, Ki ata lechol בכל עת ובכל שעה ישלומך. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ניזכר וניכר לפניך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני say Shalom, Shalom Raha, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Raha, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam, Tasim Le'olam.
We take a moment now to think of those in need of healing, whether a body or mind or spirit. We think of congregants and friends and family of congregants, Jonathan Davidson, Ben Henderson, Kara Gilliman, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Leslie Ferris, Pamela Mangus, Johnny Sickhat, Larry Miller, Martha Miller, Judy Richmond, Fernando Guerrero, Cordell Thomas, Ocean Joy Pace, Esther Bauman, Audrey Eller, Irvin Silverstein. Would anyone like to add a name? Please do so as I look around the room. And there's names on Zoom. Rachel Heslin, Sandra Landis, Ron Jones, Ron Brazil, Stephanie Soloway, Eleanor Gailey, Robin Kurland, Jonathan Gonzalez, Kim Coe, Raul Camacho, Rabbi Mel Young, Chris Hanlon. Anybody else? Please join us in the Mishabara prayer for healing, which is on the inside cover.
Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Misheberach Limoteinu, Savalim Palea Berachem. May the one who bless our mother, may the one who bless our father, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with your to reach out to those in need. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us peace, show us the way. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer.
Ezra also mentioned people in Florida, of course, we wish them safety and fairly quick recovery from this horrible hurricane. So in this week's Torah portion, God announces to Moses that he's going to die. Poor Moses is on the brink of the promised land, but while he has been allowed to see it, he will not be allowed to enter. God also warns Moses that when the people misbehave, God will hide God's countenance from them. These two themes, being on the verge of entering the promised land and God's face being hidden from us, resonate with a webinar that I attended this past week. The Trauma Informed Care Conference was put on by my sister's organization, the Children's Institute, which serves low-income children and their families. One of the keynote speakers was Andrea Elliott, a reporter for the New York Times, who spent a decade following a poverty-stricken family in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn. Fort Greene was beginning to be gentrified when Elliott began this project. While brownstones were selling for $1 or $2 million apiece, a young girl named Dasani, her 7 siblings, and her 2 parents were living in a shelter down the street from these houses. The family of 10 resided in a 500 square foot room, which was infested with mice, roaches, and mold. Dasani and her family could glimpse the promised land of high rent streets, but the chances of any of them getting to live there was just about 0. And one wonders where God was in this tragic situation. The fact is that at least 1 in 7 children, that's 11 million children, live in poverty in the wealthiest country of the world. There are also 1.38 million homeless school children in the United States. That is a shanda. And the systems that have been put in place to help these children are often punitive rather than supportive, and often make the situation worse. Let me give you some examples. Dasani's parents, whose names are Chanel and Supreme, both grew up with parents who were addicted to drugs. In a very real sense, they had to raise themselves. And drugs are often the self-medication that people employ when they have been through untreated trauma, which people in poverty experience on a daily basis. Worrying about where the next meal will come from is traumatic. As you heard earlier, the reason the Torah is read during Sukkot is because people feel that they have enough food to get by for the next year and they can absorb the lessons of the Torah. When you're hungry, there's no way you're going to absorb anything. You're going to just be scraping and scrambling for food. And of course, living with drug-addicted parents is traumatic. Living in substandard housing is traumatic. So how did this particular family end up in poverty? Dasani's great-grandfather was a mechanic who grew up in the South. He served in the Army during World War II, where he earned a triple Bronze Service Star. And then he moved up north to Brooklyn, and that was for job opportunities. Well, up north, unions would not allow Black people to join. So instead of working as a mechanic, he ended up working as a janitor. Where the GI Bill helped returning white soldiers get an education and buy a house, the same was not true for Black veterans. Thus began a cycle of poverty that is very difficult to escape. Dasani is a particularly bright and talented child. As the oldest sibling, she took care of her younger siblings while excelling in school. Her family is everything to her, and her parents wanted to create a family different from the one that they had had themselves. However, they too became addicted to drugs and were in and out of rehab. Child Protective Services monitored them very closely. First, Chanel, the mother, was removed from the home because of her addiction. And then it took the city 4 months to transfer food stamps to the father, Supreme, and to the children after Chanel was barred from the home. Desperate for food to feed his kids, Supreme threatened a clerk in a bodega. He was arrested, and the children were then removed from the apartment that they had finally managed to afford with a Section 8 voucher. The children were split into 3 foster homes, and the family will never be the same again. Chanel and her husband split up, and the children are never going to be reunited to live together. Clearly, drug addiction and many other problems, such as violence and crime, are symptoms of the kind of trauma endured by parents living in dire conditions. Perhaps we need to start with treating the trauma rather than the symptoms. Rather than spending huge amounts of money incarcerating people for crime and drugs, we should be investing in housing, education, and healthcare, including mental health care as well. Rather than punishing people for their behavior, maybe we need to look at what caused the behavior in the first place. Michael Tubbs grew up with a single mother in the poorest section of Stockton. A brilliant man, he managed to get into Stanford on a full scholarship, ran for city council at 21 while attending Stanford, and then he became the mayor of Stockton at 26, serving for 4 years. While in office, Tubbs created a guaranteed income experiment that gave certain residents $500 a month. The program was called SEED, and it has since been replicated in other American cities. Despite skepticism that the money would be spent on drugs, people actually spent the money on necessities such as food and rent. A study of the period from February 2019 to February 2020, conducted by a team of independent researchers, determined that full-time employment rose among those who received the guaranteed income, and that their financial, physical, and emotional health improved. Quote, "The last year has shown us that far too many people were living on the financial edge and then were pushed over it by COVID-19, Tubbs said in a statement. SEED gave people the dignity to make their own choices, the ability to live up to their potential, and improved economic stability going into the turmoil of the pandemic. The promised land should never be this hard to reach, not in the United States of America. And when we ask why God is hiding God's face, maybe we should be asking why we ourselves are hiding our faces from the reality of so many impoverished people in this country. Let's stop blaming the victim and instead give people the basic means to live with dignity." It's a heavy, heavy message. I realize that. I'm so grateful that there are people out there like Andrea Elliott, reporter, and Michael Tubbs, and some other people who are speaking at this conference who really want to make things better for people. But we have to have the will as a full society to do that. And you know, we tend to look at people from the perspective of what would it mean if we did those things. I was talking to my nephew today about this, and he said, well, I'm sorry to sort of ask this question, but I know I can trust you. Why do they have 8 children? And that's, of course, a very logical question, but when you live in those conditions, you're not thinking about consequences. You're not thinking about how to make sure your future is safe. You're only thinking about the present. So I want to conclude this with a Yom Kippur meditation that was written by Alden Sullivan. As you know, we are supposed to wake up during this period. And he's basing it on a part of Isaiah's great call to justice and on Jonah. Remember, Jonah falls asleep during a big storm. You know, just the way a lot of us are not completely aware of what's going on in this country. And it's Why Do You Slumber, it's called. Ma lacha nirdam, ma lach nirdama. Why do you slumber, child of humanity, when your brothers die, while your sisters cry? Kum kra el Elohecha, get up, cry out to your God, cry out for justice and for peace. Ma lacha nirdam, ma lach nirdama. Why do you slumber, child of God? Your heart is noble. The need is global. This is the hour to act with power. Kum kra el Elohecha. Get up, cry out to your God, cry out for justice and for peace. Ma lacha nirdam, ma lach nirdama. Why do you slumber, child of love? The call is urgent, the cry resurgent, to embrace each other and bless one another, to rise from slumber, to live in wonder. Kum kra el Elohecha. Get up, cry out to your God, cry out for justice and for peace. And Sandy Nelson is going to come up here. She is on our board of directors. She is the chair of our social justice committee, and she's got a few announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Very moving discussion. The honor this evening has been sponsored by Fernando Guerrero and Jane Belcher. Belcher. Please consider donating food for those in need to our food drive. All food will be helping the needy in our community during the high holy days. There are a few boxes in the temple foyer that will stay there through Yom Kippur for any non-perishable food items placed for donation. I remember that you don't put glass in there because it can break. We will also continue to support our selected feeding agencies through monetary donations. All information on how to donate to these feeding agencies is in the weekly email. Thank you for any donation that you're able to make. The theme of Rabbi Singer's sermons for the High Holy Days will be on the topic of Garden of Eden. An email was sent out last week that you may use as a reference for any information about the High Holy Days services. This email provides the Zoom links and the Torah and Haftorah readings for Yom Kippur. On Sunday, October 2nd, please join us online for a Mussar session with Jason Winston at 2:00 p.m. For our co-midday service on Tuesday, October 4th at 7:30 p.m. and our Yom Kippur morning service on Wednesday, October 5th at 10 a.m. Following the morning service will be a meditation service at 1 p.m., afternoon Torah service at 2:30 p.m., children's service at 3:30, Yitzker at 5 p.m., and Na'ila at 6 p.m. Services will be led by Rabbi Singer with Rabbi Cheryl Rosenstein serving as cantor. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. And I want to thank Eileen Stein for organizing the food drive as she does every year. And she also brings donations, whether it's food or clothing or whatever, to Arlington Temporary for people in need. So thank you so much, Eileen. Are there any other announcements on Zoom, in the sanctuary? I'd like to thank our wonderful musicians, Dory Yarmouk and Morris Maduro, for wonderful singing. And thank you to Shia Young, who is, can you see you? I don't know if you can turn the camera around. Shia is, there he is. Thank you, Shia, for working with some problems tonight, and we really appreciate your help. And thank you to his mother, who's sitting next to him, for Wendy Gullif, for setting up our own egg again. Thank you to Tim Bell for doing security for us. And thank you to Lila for greeting people tonight. I think that's, and Carolee for the Ahadja, and Gina for lighting candles. Almost everybody who's here has done something. Takes a village, right? So we're going to continue with the Aleinu, which is on the inside cover of your prayer book. And we rise. And let's see, Jill and Madison, would you like to come up and open the ark?
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teilu l'etzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'gudnik ha'rakam, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adamah, shelo samtem k'yitzchakem, yo'aleinu k'kol ha'olam, v'anachnu koli v'mishtagavim l'Elohim, v'temenem Father, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שאלונו תשמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומשה תקרבו בשמיים והארץ, ושכינתי זו, וגם הם אלוהים, הוא אלוהים, and if not made it, to the soul, how the power to you got to she I don't know who
We take a moment now. Oh, you may be seated. We take a moment now to think of those who are no longer with us. May their memories be for a blessing. Anybody observing Shabbat Shuvah or the first year of mourning would like to mention a name? First year Phil Bush, Edith Tanazaki, Janice Levy. First year Judith Cohen. First year Elena Archibald Ferris. First year Sean Heslin, Ruth Landis, and Joanne Heslin. And we're observing yard sites for the Shabbat for Nathaniel Winston, Nissim Gershon, Harry Maxman, Diane Lynn Alpert, Robert White, Gerard Loeb, Jim Dyer, Fanny Aronovitz, Arlene Cohen-Tick, Solomon Isaacs Aarons, Isadora Oppenheim, Boyd Briskin, Henry Werner, Robert Kushner, Augusta Dick, Nathan Falk, Tilly Falk, Irvin Jaspin, Myrna Jaspin, Joseph Lask, Coleman Horowitz, Ann Mursky, Leah Shevik, Anna R. Figaton, Samuel Brandfield, Jonathan Charco, Solomon Gavizer, Richard William Brinker, Beverly Scher. Is anyone else here observing in yard site? Bruce Gailey, Patty Podnar. Oh, first year also. Terry Sean, Stephen Alexander. We also think, of course, of those who perished in the Holocaust and have no one to say for the mourner's cottage for them. Please rise. Feel free to unmute if you'd like on Zoom and join me in the mourner's cottage, which is on page 598 and 480. Yigdal, Yigdash Shemei Rabbah. Ve'almad Yivrach Yamot Hayapon U'Yomepon Hayed Echol Beit Israel Ha'agalah
Bishman Kareem, Amen.
Shemei Rabbah Ramam B'Naseh B'Tadar B'Taleh B'Talal Shemei B'Kudusha B'Richu La'Elah Minchol Birchata B'Shirata Tushbahata V'Nachemata Na'amiran Be'alma Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya Aleinu
Yaakov
ve'al
Israel.
Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom v'bracha, ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al Yisrael.
Amen.
Again on Zoom, I appreciate it. And our closing song is Or Zarua, page 647 and 343.
Or Zarua Masadiku Yishlele Sikha Or Zarua Masadiku Yishlele Simcha Sivu Tzadikim Ba'adonai Ba'adonai Ve'hodu Lezecher Kodsho Lezecher Kodsho Or Zarua Masadiku Yisrael Zimcha Or Zarua Masadiku Yisrael Zimcha Or Zarua L'Tzadik U'Yishelem Simcha 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 Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat Shalom. Please join us for the Oneg, and people on Zoom, you may continue to chat if you'd like.
Don't turn that off yet. Happy Shabbat. Want to try something? It was nice. Redemption was ours. You know, I don't know what's going in and out. I think it has something to do with the way things are.
Stop it. Oh yeah, stop the.
We'll try to figure it out.